Hey, what's going on everyone? Dennis here, EDC for Fun. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we've got a really cool little knife from Divo. So this is the Divo Knives Nip, and this is in their black pearl colorway, I think is what it's called. And you can see that really cool shimmer effect on the black camo carbon fiber. Really aesthetically pleasing. This thing looks awesome. When the light just plays with it, it just dances off of there. In the sunlight, it looks great. This thing just looks phenomenal. So this right away is a very tiny knife. The nip is intended to fill that gap of small knives that doesn't really exist elsewhere in Divo's lineup. I've got a couple other Divo knives here. You got the growler, got the stout, and I got the buzz, and this guy is a dwarf compared to all these other ones. I mean, look at it next to the growler, right? Like it almost fits in the handle of the growler. It just absolutely dwarfs it. Same for the buzz, right? And of course the OG, the stout, the first knife from Divo. And so they didn't have anything in this size, so they came up with the nip. And they didn't just make a tiny knife, they made a really good tiny knife. They used excellent materials. The OEM on this one is Kubi, and Kubi does great work. I've had some knives that Kubi OEM'd for Divo that just were absolutely impressive, and a few other of Kubi's own production knives, and I'm just really impressed with the work they do. And this is no exception. So what we have is a belt satin. It's got a little smudge on it. Grab some of this. There we go. Belt satin S90V blade, and we do have a marking here on the inside. Yep, CPM S90V. So a knife steel that is known for its edge retention, corrosion resistance, hardness. This is a really good steel. Not easy to sharpen, of course, when you have a hard steel like this, but the edge does last a lot longer. So there's that. Now with a knife like this, this is basically, in my opinion, box cutter. So getting some extra life out of the edge with the S90V steel is definitely welcome. So I'll talk a little bit more about the philosophy, I think, of this knife in a second. I'll just kind of finish rounding out some of the other specs here. So back to the blade. It's a 2 1/4 inch blade. The handle is 3 1/4. Overall, that makes it, 5.5 inches. And it is pretty ergonomic. I'll talk about that again a little bit more when I go into some of the philosophy here. But it is, for a small knife, it is fairly ergonomic, which is pretty sweet. So we got the blade, we got the handle, and speaking of the handle, we've got this really nice milling on this, like checkered kind of milling on both sides of the scales, and even where on the other side of the lock bar relief there, actually both sides, and just gives you a little bit of extra purchase. It's very tactile. It feels really comfortable. It's not super aggressive, but it is enough texture that gets you that little bit of extra grip, and it looks really cool too. So continuing on the handle, we've got T8 hardware on the body, we've got T8 hardware on the clip, and we've got T8 hardware on the pivot. So that's awesome. I love seeing T8 everywhere, and it's just convenient. As somebody, who likes tinkering with knives and taking them apart and tuning them up and all that kind of stuff, T8 is my preference, and when it's uniform, it just gives me, the warm and fuzzies. So I always appreciate that. So this is an inset liner lock here, so you can see the liner. There's no jimping on the liner, the lock bar. I don't think there needs to be. It's very comfortable to engage that lock bar. There is some milling on the inside, kind of hard to see here. Yeah, you can kind of see in there some milling. And it is, I think this is 2.1 ounces on the weight, something like that. You have a hole for deployment. You've got some jimping and this really cool chamfering on the edge of the blade. This is like, they call it a modified sheep's foot blade. Not quite a Warncliffe. There is some belly on this blade, and you've got this pointy tip here, but you can see there's some good, oh, come on now. You got some of that thickness that comes down here, so you definitely have a stable stable tip there. It's not like it's super delicate or anything like that, but the way it's finished looks beautiful. In addition to those vertical grind lines, you've got horizontal grind lines up here. You've got that chamfering I was just talking about. You've got this like Vox style jimping that's up here, which is not very aggressive, but also does give you traction. It's not like it's useless. You have a hole for deployment that's also finished really nicely inside the hole. It's got some nice chamfering. And one of my favorite parts about this knife is the flipper tab. So you got a low profile flipper tab with some jimping that goes all the way around. But if you notice, once you deploy it, that tab disappears inside the handle. So it's not poking out. So it just looks really cool. And it also is very comfortable. And I love seeing that. I only have a couple knives that do that, and whenever I see designers doing that, I definitely appreciate it, because it just gives you a cleaner look, a more comfortable knife. And you don't have, if you're somebody who fidgets a lot, sometimes with flippers, when they stick out real far and you're opening and closing, you get that flipper kind of hanging up on your thumb, so you don't really get to experience the drop shut that you have on a lot of knives, because the flipper tab kind of gets in the way. Let's flip this guy over. We've got this snout style lanyard hole. So no hole other than the body screws in the handle. You have this basically back spacer that has this little bar here, so if you want to run a lanyard you can, but it also doesn't really take away from the aesthetic. As a matter of fact, I think this actually adds to the aesthetic. Usually lanyard holes don't really look good per se, but the way this is done actually looks cool. I think it adds to the appeal of this knife, just the way that's finished and the way it looks. Coming over on this side, we have the machined titanium pocket clip, which is a nice clip, but I would have preferred a wire clip on this guy. The tension is really tight. Going in and out of the pocket is kind of a chore, especially if you have pants that have like a thick hem on the pocket. I had to kind of lift this guy up a little bit, to slide it over the pocket hem. And a wire clip, although not as visually appealing as this machine clip is, it would function a lot better in and out of the pocket. But for, $175, that's one of the things contributing to the price is, machine clip, high-end materials, lots of milling, lots of little details and design elements that contribute to this guy costing what it costs. I have here an MKM Asanzo, and this guy I paid $100 for. It's M390 micarta, made in Italy. This is a really, really cool knife. This is basically my little box cutter mail opener kind of knife. So do I open every box or every piece of mail with it? No, but this is, my go-to for that kind of stuff, just because it's a fun little knife. And so that's, for me personally, that's how I would see something like this. So do I really want to spend $175 on a box cutter? Not really. I didn't really like paying $100 for this one, especially considering these actually go on sale. After I bought this, it dropped all the way down to $50, and then I saw it go back to 100 and then drop to 75. And so you can find these you know, for a really good deal. But coming back to the nip here at $175, I'm not saying it's overpriced, because you're getting, you know, a micro brand with, you know, like I said, high-end materials, really cool design, really unique, something that definitely stands out. So I'm not saying it's not worth $175, but me personally, I don't really want to pay $175 for something I'm just going to kind of open the mail in a few boxes here and there with. I'm just not that kind of collector. So you can, by the way, get these a little bit cheaper. If you go right now at time of filming, it's the 19th of November. Look at my Seiko 5 here, if I can get the date to focus. The White Mountain Knives website I saw has titanium handled versions of these. And even though they're listed at $175, if you put in the code LEFTY10, then that gets you 10% off, and then that brings that to about $150. So the ergonomics are really, really good, especially for a knife that's this small. You've got this groove up here, which you can absolutely get your index finger on. There's no guard. There is a tiny, tiny little bit of a ricasso there, but no guard. So when you put your finger up there, you do have to be careful. But that does allow you to get, with that, I can get at least 3 fingers on there. If I really wanted to, I could cram my 4th finger on there. So from this point to this point, I mean, that's like 2 1/4 inches. And you, without that groove in there, I mean, you're cramming 3 fingers in there. Having that groove makes all the difference in the world, completely transforms the ergonomics of this knife, and then that sets you up to where your thumb is landing right on that jimping right there. You can definitely lock this guy in and feel like you've got really, really good control. So for a tiny little knife, it doesn't feel like it's gonna slip out of your hand and stab you. It's very comfortable, very secure, and so they did an absolutely excellent job with that. So that is the Divo Nip. I want to thank you guys for checking out the video. Leave me a like and a comment. Subscribe if you're not already. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. See you.